Welcome back to Close Up. There is so much to sort out from the primary and all of the issues we're looking at heading toward November. We're lucky to have Scott Spradling, political analyst, former WMUR political director, here to help us sort it out. So,
hi, Adam.
Scott, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's first discuss the top of the ticket and how that will impact what happens down ballot in November. We know that, these races really do draw out so many more people. You could see it with Obama.
Yep.
You could see it with Trump in 2016. So how does the two people at the top of these tickets here impact what goes on down ballot?
Yeah, so we're talking coattails, and it's a moving target. But I think there's a good football analogy here. If it's a blowout game and it's not even close, people leave before the game's over, right? It could actually hurt your turnout just a little bit to say, well, this is not much of a game. If it's close, you've got both sides engaged. So the question is, where's the tipping point and where are the coattails? In New Hampshire, if you believe the polls, right now momentum's with the Harris side and the Dems. So that could produce a couple of points of extra vote for the Democrats at the top of the ticket, something that would benefit someone like a Joyce Craig in the race for governor. But it could affect the entire ticket, so we're watching to see. Does Harris continue the momentum? Does Trump surge and bring it back? Do we see an energy that creates around the entire ticket that everybody's turning out? So right now, advantage Dems.
We know those undeclared voters oftentimes like to hopscotch around. You look at some of those town-by-town results, and it's like, where are people coming from on these things? It kind of defies the notion of pure partisanship. Does Kelly Ayotte need a good chunk of Harris-Ayotte voters to win in November?
And Adam, I think they're out there. So yes, she does. And one thing we have seen in history is that the governor's race can and has been judged separately from all the other traditional coattails and up and down ballot. So first and foremost, Kelly Ayotte, as the sort of conventional wisdom front-runner overall, as we merge with Joyce Craig in the general, she needs to hit her marks, not make mistakes, and then do whatever blocks or counterpunches that are going to come in what we think is going to be a pretty bitterly fought general election race. Joyce Craig has to do the exact same thing. She is technically the underdog, so if there's that Harris top of the ticket momentum, that helps her a little bit, but they both have to hit their marks, not make their mistakes, and we'll see how this unfolds because both have been throwing punches already for months, so we already kind of know what this is going to look like.
Let's go a little super inside baseball and talk some state senate. In Concord, District 15, Tara Reardon manages the win there. That's going to create an interesting ideological shift. You had Dan Feltus and Becky Whitley, who are both left of center.
Yes.
And Reardon is much more of a committed moderate. How does this reshape what Donna Soucy is working with in that Democratic caucus?
And then when you also add Pat Long, alderman in Manchester, who's looking like he's going to be replacing Lou D'Alessandro in the state senate. We'll wait till the votes are counted, but if that's a core of the constituency for the Dems, you've got now a more moderating force. It's going to be less progressive on issues of priority. These are more pragmatic and more practical lawmakers. You know who's going to be happy? Everybody who wears an orange badge, the lobbyists, because these are known commodity people. These are folks who are accessible and are willing to work across both sides of the aisle. If this is the core of your Democratic Senate leadership, and if they, I don't know, maybe get the majority or close the minority down, you've got a group of people that will be true leaders in legislative activity next year.
At the state level, we were also watching this primary for Senator Gannon out there in the southern tier, heading out toward the seacoast along 101. You know, he is a very much more traditional Republican. He had a more libertarian-leaning Republican challenging him. And those libertarians really wanted to take this seat, and they got trounced in this primary.
They did. Emily Phillips was running pretty much as a libertarian-type candidate, and there was a lot of attention paid to it. The insiders were watching more closely, but we were seeing, okay, is this a barometer for Libertarian Party momentum? There might be in some places. Lily Tong Williams definitely did that at the very top of the ticket in the second CD, but the Emily Phillips, Senator Gannon battle ended up going to Gannon, so maybe there's not quite as much momentum with the Free State Libertarian Project as we thought. And as we're still looking through the results, Adam, we're trying to figure out, did the full bear hug Trump embrace by Republican candidates really help? And I think most of us are watching in the first CD with Joe Kelly, alderman in Manchester, who was Trump or bust on his campaign signs. He finished third. It was close, and we weren't sure how that was going to turn out. But in 2024, it's just a different story than it was in 2022, where you had to have the full embrace of Donald Trump if you had a chance.
Yeah, it was interesting. It seems like Joe Kelly left a lot on the table, potentially, with the way he ran that race. Seabrook, huge Trump town, and he I think, finished third or fourth.
Yeah, fourth. Yeah. So and maybe he didn't get out enough. Maybe he didn't have enough time. I mean, he did get in very late, but it does suggest that maybe the Republican Party is a little bit more complicated in New Hampshire than it might be elsewhere.
He was at least willing to have some fun with it at the Republican Unity breakfast, saying, "Where the heck is Asa Pieni?" So,
I love
classic
that.
Manchester answer, I think. Scott Spradling, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, and that wraps up this edition of Close Up New Hampshire. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the politics page on our website and the mobile app for more in-depth analysis and to sign up for our weekly newsletter. We'll be back next week. Have a great Sunday.